Welcome to the Stress Free Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon, and check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches, or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. And today I'm joined by John Webben, and he is a guy of many talents. We've been blessed to get to know him over the last couple of years. He's helped me with some content with some of my books, and just a great guy to get to know. Him and his wife Tiffany are just great people. John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, sir. Pleasure to be here.
And John, where are you zooming in from today?
Nashville, Tennessee.
And are you originally from California?
Yeah, originally from San Diego, moved to Nashville about a year and a half ago, and never looked back. We really love Nashville. Nice people, good food, and great music.
Awesome. And now tell me your origin story, because I know you're a kind of a specialist with content, and you help people with books and anything content related. How did you first get started in all this?
Yeah, so going back 30 years, I graduated from Thunderbird with my MBA. It's International Business School in Arizona. And coming out of that program in 98, I thought I was going to be the CMO of Ford Motor Company, right? I was very much, on the corporate path. And so I worked at Ford for 3 years. And then I worked at Kia for 5 years. And after about 8 years of doing that, I realized I wasn't a corporate guy at all, that I was an entrepreneur, and discovered that when I was 33, 34. And, it's never too late, right? So, and I was still young, but at that time I started they called it copywriting back then. Now it's content marketing. But I started a copywriting agency where I would write copy for ads and, banner ads back then, and, website pages and things like that. And it just blew me away that people would be willing to pay me money to write for them. I was just like, wow. I was making like $300-400 an hour doing it. And it was shocking to me. So that was in 2004. And then flash forward 10 years after that, and I started Content Launch, which became a software company, a content marketing platform where we had writers built in, and you could order content on our platform and get ideas on content strategy and things like that. We were a big HubSpot partner for many years. Wrote a couple books on content marketing that really kind of elevated my brand, and I started speaking at all the conferences and became a content marketing kind of thought leader, if you will. And did Content Launch for many years, and then sold Content Launch last year to a CRM company. I'm still involved in Content Launch, but not as much as I used to be. So long story short, I started a company called Captain of Books last year. And Captain of Books is a high-end book production consultancy where we help thought leaders and dentists and all kinds of folks tell their story and write their book. So that's kind of my last 20 years in a nutshell.
So I actually saw your website, Captain of Books, and you're actually wearing like a boat captain's outfit, and it's awesome. You got to check it out.
Yeah.
Now, were you initially very gifted at writing and creating? The reason I'm asking is, I wrote my first book when I was 44, and I think you said you were 34 when you felt that entrepreneurial bug. For me, it was even later at 44 during the quarantine is when I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug and started writing, and I was not good. And it took me a long time, and now I'm much better. I've written 5 books.
Nice.
Did it come natural?
Yeah, so the one thing that I knew I was really good at was writing. I've always been a great writer. And so when I wanted to start a company in 2004, that's the first thing I did. I said, well, what am I good at? What will people be willing to pay me for? And I thought, maybe people will be willing to pay me to write for them, you know? And I just didn't know to what degree, but boy, there were a lot of people out there, a lot of companies that needed my help. In the first year or so of my business, I was again shocked and surprised at how many people needed that help. And so when you're really good at something, I think you naturally think other people are good at it too. You forget about the fact that there's a lot of people that aren't good at it or don't want to do it or don't have the time for it, right? So yeah, I've always been a writer and always wanted to write a book since I was like 15 years old. Finally got around to it when I was 37, was my first book. But yeah, writing comes easy to me. I love communicating that way. I'm an introvert by nature, even though some people don't believe me when they see me on stage singing and dancing. But I say, hey, Michael Jackson was an introvert too. Okay. So anyways, yeah, I'm a writer. I'm definitely a writer by trade.
I'm the same way. I'm more introverted, and people say, that's not possible. You have a podcast, you get up there and speak.
Yeah.
And, for me personally, I decompress and want to just be by myself sometimes. And that's how I decompress.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
for sure feel more introverted, but I worked at it. I worked at writing. I worked at speaking. I worked at all those things. And I feel like it's like a muscle. The more you do it, you get better at it.
For sure.
But the key is that first, doing it the first time. Let's say I'm a dentist or a dental professional, hygienist, assistant. I work in the dental office somewhere. I've got a great idea, but I just don't have the skills, the time, the confidence to write my first book. What do you recommend there?
Yeah, well, you're basically talking about my wife Tiffany. Yeah,
Mhm.
this is her book. This came out 3 years ago, and 4 or 5 years ago, Tiffany. I mean, she was a hygienist by trade, and she was up until a couple of years ago. But she always had the passion and these ideas and a way of doing things in the operatory that were distinct and original in hers and hers alone. And she strategized with one of her doctor friends for many years on that protocol and that methodology. And so with his encouragement and my encouragement, when I met her, I had been doing books for a long time. I said, hey, honey, you should write a book. And so I helped her with that. And Dr. Brown, her boss, helped her with that and encouraged her to do that. So that would be my recommendation is, if you've got some ideas and you've always wanted to do a book, start jotting down some notes, start journaling, come up with an outline or just maybe a possible title, some possible chapters. I always recommend, if you're writing a book, try and say something unique and different and new. Try and make it your own. I mean, you can certainly have a book that's similar to other people's book and maybe it's your opinion on things, but if you can really step outside and say, okay, how could I say something new or original or come up or synthesize some ideas and create something new, a new methodology, a new protocol, a new whatever, that will always get more attention than just another dental operations book, right? Or another dental hygiene book or another, how to be a dentist book. You have stories and anecdotes and personal reflections that are yours and yours alone. And that's the other part that makes a great book is including all of that. Right. So with our clients, we always interview them anywhere up 5 to 15 times over the first few weeks of our project with them to get all that information. But a lot of people already have that. It's just stuck in their head. Right. So it's a process of getting it out of their head and onto paper. And that's really the first step.
I think you said the same thing to me. You said, "Hey, honey, why don't you write your fifth book?" And I finally did. So,
Yeah, I think I did say honey. I think I did
yeah.
call you honey. That might have been
Um,
after a year or two.
Yeah. What if I have, like you said, I have a lot of ideas in my head. And I think I've got a good story, and this could be fiction or nonfiction. For me personally, most of my books are nonfiction. They're stories about me and dentistry,
Mhm.
or being an entrepreneur. I do have one children's book that is fictionalized, but it's sort of a true story of me during the quarantine with my, a story about me and my daughter overcoming self-doubt.
Okay.
Um, But let's say I just have all these ideas floating around. Maybe I even want to write just a fully sci-fi fiction book.
Yeah.
What's the process of figuring out a strategy of what I need to focus in on?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we get that a lot, and our job on a first call with someone who is interested in doing a book is to try and tap into what's the passion? Where's the passion
Mm.
at? And do you have something different and refreshing to say that maybe no one else is saying? We're really good at asking the right questions to try and tap into that because whoever it is might be too close to it. Again, like you said, maybe they have a bunch of ideas and they don't know where to focus. Well, it's our job as their partner in that project to get them to identify the nugget, right? They may rattle off 5 or 10 ideas, and we go, "Oh, wait, what was that one? What did you just say?" Because that's the one, right? And we're really good at, because we've done so many books over the last 20 years for all kinds of people, we're really good at identifying what is that kernel, what is that golden nugget that we can then turn into something really special. So yeah, I think you need to collaborate on that. It's a brainstorming process in the beginning. And it is hard to focus, but you definitely need to focus on that one thing, whatever it is, to really produce a great book. So, yeah, very common question that we get, Eric.
Do you help with ghostwriting as well? And if so, can you actually explain what that actually means?
Yeah. Yeah. So ghostwriting is 70% of what we do, quite honestly. I mean, we write the book for whoever it is, and then they own that work and they can put their name on it. And look, most celebrities, if not all, and politicians, athletes, whoever it is who write a book, they're never, hardly ever writing that alone. I mean, there's only one politician I can think of, Barack Obama, who has written all of his books. I think he's written 3 or 4, and he has written those books. But most people have a ghostwriter. And even folks that aren't celebrities, business people, CEOs, CMOs, anyone busy, right? We're all busy. How do you find time to write a great book? Because if you want to write a great book, it does take time, as you know, Eric. So yeah, ghostwriting is the majority of what we do, and that is where all the magic happens. And you could write a book, like I said, you could write a good book any day of the week, but we always want to write a great book for whoever it is. And we're able to, like I said, dig in and find what that great thing is and really explore that, and write the book so that it becomes something they're very proud of and better than they ever thought it could be. So yeah, ghostwriting is the heart and soul of what we do. Obviously, there's stuff in the beginning and there's stuff after that happens, but as you know, ghostwriting is the bulk of it.
Now, what for me personally, it all started with the book, The Stress-Free Dentist. And then from there, I'm like, you know what? I think I have something here. I think I have, more than just a book. I have a brand. I created the podcast, Facebook groups. Do you typically recommend to start with the book and then branch out from there with other platforms?
Yeah, the book, again, not to rattle my not give my wife too much credit, but she deserves all the credit. She started with her book, and then she created a company around the book, and that was a fantastic strategy, and it's good for almost anybody because the book gets buzz. As you know, the book is kind of the magic, right? And when you walk into a room and you have a book, people gravitate towards you just naturally because all of a sudden you're a thought leader. A book is kind of magic. It's kind of like, ooh, you got a book. That's cool. Just having your name on something, it really gives you that gravitas. So yeah, you can definitely create a personal brand, and the book is a great place to start. Because look, there's of all the personal brand people out there, anyone that has a personal brand, there's a lot of those people actually that don't have a book. But if they had a book, they would be that much better and more recognized than their peers. Because again, it's just that magic thing that a book does for someone. But so yeah, I always recommend start with a book and then you can build your brand from that. Because all you got to do is buy your name URL, right? Especially if you have a unique name.com, and you can set up a very simple website, get the email marketing going, get your social media account started, and off you go. But if you got a book, it gives it that gravitas that you just don't have if you just have a website, right?
Yeah, I really feel like the book, it's almost like the new business card. If you have a book, for me, I feel like at this point I've gotten good at writing books, but I'm not great at selling or promoting them, but they have opened a lot of doors for me.
Sure.
And, when I mention the book, it's created speaking engagements, been a KOL. It's opened up investment opportunities for me. It's really just been the start of a lot of collaborations, and created, from there, the personal brand. Um, do you in general just help people as well with that personal brand? Let's say they've got a book, but maybe they also want to do some speaking around this niche subject. Do you help them out with that as well?
Yeah, 100% we do. And by the way, just to add a little bit more to my previous answer. So if I'm a dentist and let's say I'm getting ready to retire or I'm thinking about doing some other things with my life, a book is a great legacy item. It's a great kind of telling your story and the leave behind to the younger generation, the younger doctors and dentists that are coming up. It's just a really nice legacy piece. So we do get dentists and doctors. In fact, we're working with a bunch of doctors now on that very thing, like, hey, telling their story, all the little things that happen along the way and the little patient stories here and there that can really educate and entertain other people. So there's that. But to answer your question, yes, we do help with setting up the personal brand. So the website, setting up the social media and the content, because the content, just the book is content, right? It's the content nugget, if you will, the most important thing when it comes to content or content marketing. And I always say that the book is the hub of whatever you're doing, and all the spokes that come off it are all the other things you can do. The audio book, the video series, the keynote speeches. So yes, you asked about keynote speeches. So we will a lot of times help with reaching out to speakers bureaus and meeting planners and people that book speakers. If we have a really dynamite person we're working with and we finish the book for them, naturally you can get speaking gigs from a book. And I know you have, Eric, because the book helps launch that speaking career. And you want to get paid to speak in a perfect world, right? I mean, obviously there's a lot of opportunities to speak for free, but our goal with our author clients, if they want to, is to help them get paid speaking gigs. So we have relationships with 5 or 6 speakers bureaus, which that's all they do is help people get speaking gigs. And I know before COVID, I was getting 10 to 15,000 per keynote, and I'm getting back on that train here with what I'm doing now with Captain of Books. But there's no question, if you write a great book and you're great at speaking, which there are a lot of dentists I've seen that are really great at speaking too, you can get out there and use the book as a fulcrum, if you will, as a lever to get paid speaking gigs at anywhere from 5 to 15,000 starting. And then moving up from there, depending on what you want to do. So the book, you will get some book sales out of it, but you're not going to make your money doing that. You're really buying your way into becoming a thought leader and someone who has something to say that other people need to hear. And look, if you're that person, then yes, you are going to get out there and speak, and you should, and you can get paid to speak. And that's where you make your money. If that's one of your goals, is you get paid to speak and you get paid for consulting, right? So that's another avenue, another revenue stream that you can get from the book.
I love it. And I totally agree. Unfortunately, I think it really takes a lot of work and traveling and effort if you really want to sell some books. I went to a local bookstore that was having a fair, not an affair, a book fair.
Right.
And I took my son, and he recognized one of the books and the authors, and I was chatting it up, and he's like, yeah, it's a hustle. He's every week in, week out, he's going to different cities, and it's a lot of effort, to really make a living at writing. But for me, it's been the other stuff that I've really made money with. Also, something you can do is, if you do get those speaking gigs, then part of the package could be they have to buy a certain amount of books.
Right.
I have one coming up, and they bought 50 books, and they're going to hand them out to all the attendees.
Cool. That's great.
So it's an extra little thing that you can do. You mentioned the word legacy. That is, one of the reasons why I write books and articles. I want to leave a legacy for my kids. I want them to remember what I did. I have video content, written content, and that's why I just don't believe in AI. When you get involved with AI, it takes that personality out of it.
Right.
And I feel like you can just sniff that out. And, someone asked me, do you just plug it into AI and a book comes out? I'm like, no, that's not why I write the book. I write the book because I have a personal story to tell and I want to share it.
Right.
What are your thoughts on AI and what's going on out there?
So I could talk for the next hour about AI, but I won't. I will give you my abbreviated version. And so I will answer that question by saying, have you ever seen or heard a song, a quote unquote song that uses AI to write a new Beatles song, right? Or a new Bob Dylan song or a new whatever, put up whatever artist you want. So there are probably 100 AI Beatles songs on YouTube, and I've heard 3 or 4 or 5 of them. And then if you listen to any of those, and these people are trying to put their heart and soul into it, so probably, but it doesn't hold a candle to anything the Beatles ever did, because it's AI, it's artificial, it's based on something the Beatles did or the way the Beatles sounded, but it's maybe 1% of what a Beatles song actually is. So I use that analogy because people don't quite get it, I think. AI is a tool. It is not the end all be all. It's a tool, just like MailChimp is a tool for email and Hootsuite's a tool for social media scheduling, right? It's a tool and that's all it is. AI will never be inside your head and be able to tell your stories, your personal anecdotes, your emotions, and your passion for whatever it is. I'm sorry, you can't plug that in to Jasper or ChatGPT yet. And I don't think you will ever be able to do that. I mean, maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it'll be able to be implanted in our brain or whatever. I don't think I want that, though. Quite honestly, I mean, I'm 53, I'm Gen X. That doesn't sound like something I want. Maybe someone younger would want to do that. But my point being that AI is a good tool. It's changed everything, which is great. It can help, but it shouldn't be what you rely on. If you are using AI to write your book, guess what? It'll be a bad book. It won't accomplish what you want it to accomplish. You won't get any speaking gigs out of it. And my God, wouldn't you be embarrassed to put that out with your name on it? I mean, you're talking about your reputation and your integrity. And like you said, you can sniff that stuff out. I mean, I can, you can, a lot of people can. And it just doesn't sound good. I mean, someone will send something to me, and I know in 5 seconds whether it was AI generated or not. And I don't have to explain what it looks like, but it almost always sounds like a textbook. Okay. Textbooks are dry and boring for a reason, right? And or it'll have too many adjectives. It'll be too flowery, too descriptive. People don't talk like that, and if you want a great book, it's got to be conversational. Okay. There's no AI tool right now that writes in a conversational way, the way that you talk or the way that I talk. So that's actually kind of a long answer to your question, but yeah, I'm anti-AI, quite honestly, because I'm in the book business, right? And so, yeah, please, folks, if you're listening, do not use AI to write your book. You can use it to plan your book and do the research, and that will save you a ton of time. But when you actually have to put pen to paper or hand to keyboard, you're not using AI to do that. Okay, you just don't do it. Is my recommendation.
Yeah, and then just I always go back to the reason why I'm writing the book. I'm writing the book because I've got something in my head that I want to share. It's
right.
And again, like I said, to leave that legacy, it's personal to me. So AI, like you said, as a tool, maybe can help you a little bit of grammar, and strategy, but don't get Milli Vanilli'd. Remember Milli Vanilli? They were
Yes.
a band. Go, please, if you haven't heard of them, go, look them up on YouTube. They were this, couple handsome guys. They got up there. They were, lip syncing their whole career. And then they got found out and their whole career ended in one night because their lip syncing, people found out about it. So
Thank you for bringing that up because so their music still holds up. And let me tell you why. I went to a Milli Vanilli concert in 1989. I'm 53. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Milli Vanilli was a phenomenon. Okay. The one thing they did that was original and their own was their dancing and their look, right? They created that look and they did the dancing and they were great at it, really great at it. And their music videos hold up still because of their dancing. So that was them and them alone. But the reason the music still holds up is the songs. And someone wrote those songs. And those songs came from someone's head who was passionate and knew how to write a song. And yeah, so Milli Vanilli lip synced, and it wasn't their voices coming out, it was someone else's voices. So your point's well taken. That was sort of the AI back then, right? Was everyone was sort of hoodwinked and thought, oh my God, like it's not them singing. So that's a great analogy. Actually, I'm going to use that in other situations when people bring up AI. So thank you for that, Eric.
I think it's going to be a T-shirt. Don't get Milli Vanilli'd. I want to wrap up with three final questions.
Sure.
One is, what if I am just so fear-stricken of speaking, writing a pitch deck? I'm sorry, a speaking slide deck.
Yep.
I'm just so nervous to get in front of people. What's your advice there?
Well, and by the way, thanks for bringing that up. We do help with keynote presentations and writing the content for those, as well as podcast episode outlines. So we do anything content-wise, we help folks with that. But yeah, so a lot of people who are first-time authors, or maybe they've worked for a corporation their whole life, 20 or 30 years, and now they're on their own. It's kind of nerve-wracking, right, to be out there as a brand. Because you're putting yourself out there. Literally, you're doing podcasts like this. You're out there in the media answering questions. You're doing speaking. First, I would say practice makes perfect. If you had chances along the way when you're younger to learn how to be out there and speak, that's great. That's really the answer. Is hopefully you have that experience from the past. But let's say you don't. Let's say you didn't really do a lot of speaking. Let's say you were a dentist who performed amazing dentistry for the last 25 years, and you worked in your practice and you did great work and you made a lot of money and helped a lot of people, but you never really got out there to the conferences and spoke. And your first time doing that, right? Well, I would say this to that person. I would say writing a book actually is a confidence builder. Actually, if you start with that and then get that done and then look at it and it's sitting in your hand and you look through and you go, my God, I wrote a book. This is me, my thoughts, my ideas. That actually is a great stepping stone to the next thing, right? Because that builds the confidence to go out there and think, oh, maybe people want to hear what I have to say, right? And you would be surprised. My first book was 15 years ago, and I'll never forget when I got the first email from someone. It was 3 months after I published the book, maybe. Someone emailed me who bought my book and said, I read your book and it gave me the confidence to start my own company and become a copywriter. And I want to thank you. It's just some random person from, I think it was Colorado. And I got a ton of emails like that after that. But that very first one, I thought, wait a second, I'm like impacting people's lives. And I didn't even think about that when I wrote the book. But that's the last thing I will say to your question, Eric, is that whether you think so or not, if you put yourself out there and your ideas are original and you have something really important to say, you will impact other people. And that's partially what it should be about for you, is helping other people and giving them the confidence and the idea to maybe do something in their lives. So that another long answer to your question, but I think the book itself is a confidence builder for everything else that comes after that.
All right, two final questions. Number one, where do we get a hold of you or find out more? And then second final question is, what advice would you give to the young entrepreneur out there?
So John at captainofbooks.com. So Jon at captainofbooks.com. That's how people can get a hold of me. And then the advice I would give to the new entrepreneur, I remember how I was when I was 23, 24. And if I could talk to my younger self, I'd say, hey, John, go out there and just do it. Get going on it. Don't worry about what people think or what they're going to say. Just do it. And by the way, some of your biggest naysayers will be people in your own family. Okay. And I had a couple of people like that in my own family. Okay. That will remain nameless. But don't listen to anyone else. If you've got the passion and the idea, just go and get started and do it. Like that. Really taking that first step is the biggest step and the hardest part. And throw caution to the wind a little bit, and just get going on it. That would be my advice. And if you need help, look for people like you, Eric, or people like me, people that are willing to give some free advice. And because at our age, I'm 53, I love nothing more than like helping younger folks, capitalize on their dream. So.
That's great advice, and totally agree. Keep positive people around you and curb that negativity, because that negativity can take up your brain space, and keeping positive people around you is just, it's just such a great way to grow and be more creative and productive. John, great episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, John Webben, check it out, captainofbooks.com. Thanks so much.